Turkey, what the hell happened this time? 61 shots and no goals. That's what happened. But welcome back to the World Cup recap, day 9 now of the tournament. We're starting to see some teams bow out of the tournament. A big team going out as well. We'll get all into that later on in this one. But for now, we will start off with the first game of the day, USA against Australia. Both teams obviously coming off great results in their first game. Australia really holding it down against Turkey and capitalizing, beating them 2-0. And obviously the US putting on an attacking masterclass against Paraguay, winning their opening game 4-1. Now, there was some worry for the US heading into this one with Christian Pulisic being out of this game. He obviously came out early in the Paraguay game, only played 45 minutes in that one, still with a lingering calf issue, and he obviously sat out of this one. In the coming days, I guess we'll see how much of this was more of a precautionary thing or if this is an actual issue that he could be dealing with throughout the tournament, and that's the case. That could be big, especially when the US's level of competition will begin to increase. But for a match like this, the US understood that Australia were once again going to be very, very tough to break down, just like they were in the Turkey game. They had to take their chances. And luckily for them, they do have other players in the boot that can do that. And just like in the Paraguay game, the one that did it first was from the other team. With Florian Balogun once again just showing his brilliance in this tournament, making that run down the left-hand side, putting it in the box, and Cameron Burgess tipping it into his own net. And just like that, without even having to touch the ball in, the US have the lead. From there, the US just kept things going. Australia did have a really dangerous chance literally right after the goal. But the US knew that if they wanted to get through this game really scot-free, they had to get another one, especially in that first half. And that's exactly what they did. Alex Freeman, of all people, heading the ball in, initially ruled an offside. That was overturned. And seeing the crowd's reaction to when that goal was overturned was just insane. I know US crowds and US soccer crowds get a lot of flack from other fan bases around the world for maybe not being as passionate. But one thing you can't speak about them is the fact that they are loud, especially when it comes to sports that attract more of their interests like football and basketball. We see some of the college crowds and how crazy they get. And that's honestly what this game kind of felt like, especially when that goal went in. The crowd in Seattle was just insane. Again, without Christian Pulisic, there was no problems in the attack, especially when we saw the best of Sergiño Dest. I got on him in the last game. I don't think he was that great in that one, but this one, just night and day from him. He was electric on that right-hand side, just dazzling defenders with his moves and just creating so many great chances. Yes, the end product may not be there. He's not really a natural forward in that sense, but man, is that guy just incredible on the ball. And we saw a lot of that today, especially in the first half of things. As far as the second half goes, Australia kind of did the smart thing here. They realized, as far as the second half goes, Australia probably did the smart thing by stopping the bleeding. One thing that I thought was kind of controversial from Australia and Tony Popovich, I know I gave him a lot of credit in the last time they played against Turkey, but this game, he benched both of his goal scorers from the last game. Nestori Irankunda and Connor Metcalf both got benched, which I thought was very questionable. Like, those two guys single-handedly helped you get those 3 points, a big 3 points when it's now being like against Turkey. But to bench them in this one and the replacements really not sufficing things in the attack, I thought that wasn't a great move. And trying to bring them on in the second half, it just didn't really work. The best bet for Australia realistically was if they got a goal back, but they were never able to do that. The US was able to hold strong in their fort, and they get a big 2-0 win, which puts them now in pole position, topping the group. Incredible stuff from them. I think it's only the third time that they've ever topped a group at the World Cup. And again, they weren't necessarily the favorites to do that. Obviously, we'll get into the actual favorites later on. But again, a lot of doubts about this US team heading into this World Cup. And as of now, they've answered the call. Obviously, again, the level of competition is going to get stronger as this tournament goes on. Even the Turkey game, as much as it doesn't really mean anything, I think that is in some way still a step up. And the US should really use this as a bit of a litmus test as far as where they can actually do things as far as this tournament going forward. But speaking of going forward again, the US, no shortage in that attack whatsoever. The midfield, obviously, still doing its thing. McKennie, Tillman, we've already went through those guys in the previous game. They've just been controlling things throughout the tournament so far. But overall, again, no complaints for the US. They've looked a lot better than I think a lot of us thought they would heading into this tournament. And as for Australia, you can kind of say the same thing about them. They're obviously in a position where they can clinch either second or third in this group. Obviously, that Paraguay game, they are obviously in a better position because of the goal differential. So we'll see how all that unfolds next game. But Australia, great stuff from them once again, proving that even with a lack of star talent, especially European talent on their team, they can still be able to pull through as a team. And I think that is just so important. I think that's an area where if you have a lot of guys playing with each other in a system that's so familiar, you can really be able to produce results. And that's something that to an extent could get overlooked as far as some of these smaller teams or teams that don't have maybe as much talent playing in Europe. Now on to the second game of the day. We jump to Group C, Scotland against Morocco. Again, I gotta talk about the fan bases. This group is just like the group of the fan bases. Like, you could say maybe 3 of the top fan bases in probably international football: Brazil, Morocco, and Scotland. And no matter what, you're just gonna get a crazy, crazy atmosphere. And once again, Scotland brought it. Unfortunately, their hopes were dashed just 2 minutes into the game, with Ismail Saibari once again with a master goal. This one coming just 2 minutes into the game. I mean, that finish is just ridiculous from him. There's a reason why Bayern Munich are all over this guy in this tournament, because, man, this guy can absolutely finish. This movement as well, the way he moves with the ball, it's just insane, man. Ismail Saibari, he's quickly becoming a household name in this tournament. He puts Morocco up 1-0 just like that. However, I will say the rest of this game was honestly pretty underwhelming from Morocco, especially with that first chance. I expected them to get maybe 2 or 3 on Scotland, but that just wasn't the case. They really lacked things after that. And it honestly felt like for periods of that second half that Scotland would potentially get an equalizer. The biggest thing for them was obviously around the 82nd minute, where they could have been awarded a penalty. Now, looking at this multiple times, I probably would have awarded a penalty for this. I think Scotland and their fans could feel a little bit hard done by at least not getting that opportunity to potentially tie things up and put themselves in a better position to come out on this group. Because now if you're Scotland, you're at the point where you don't want to get battered by Brazil, because that could pretty much dash your chances. I say all this to say a point for them in this game would have been massive. But again, for Morocco, they were able to pull it off just by the skin of their teeth. Again, they'll have Ismail Saibari to thank for that. Brahim Diaz setting him up as well. Again, those two, man, both goals and assists for this Morocco team so far, they are just lethal. Those guys were obviously not there in the 2022 tournament. Now they're coming up big for this team right now. Again, the pipeline of Moroccan talent is just insane. But again, as I said, for Morocco, this wasn't the kind of performance that we saw against Brazil where they were just completely all over them. This was a little bit less of that. But again, knowing what we saw from their previous game, I'll probably want to chalk this up as just maybe a one-off for Morocco. They did what they had to do. They got the 3 points. They put themselves in that position to advance. Obviously now with what we saw in the other game, they're going to have some work to do if they want to get that first place spot against Haiti. You hope the team will look to probably produce a little bit more in that game, give themselves that extra boost heading into the knockout stages. But again, overall, fair play to Scotland. They've actually looked a lot better than I thought they would. Again, pushing a team like Morocco like this is definitely not something I expected heading into this tournament. I thought they'd probably get a good result against Haiti, but then really falter in their next 2 games. But we'll see what they can do against Brazil. And speaking of Brazil, we got to talk about their game against Haiti. Now, right from the jump, this was a game that I set out for Brazil heading into this tournament. A game like this is where if the Morocco game doesn't go all too well, that you can gain a lot from this game. Mainly confidence, especially from your attack. And that is exactly what we got. Instead of Igor Thiago starting up front, we had Matheus Cunha, the Man United man, who came up big early in this game with a pair of goals, which just makes you wonder, what the hell was Ancelotti thinking starting Igor Thiago against Morocco in the first place? Because, man, Matheus Cunha, he showed up in this game, and he's probably secured himself that starting spot for the rest of this tournament. He was just electric there. The passes he was playing, the runs he was making, just exactly what you want from a center forward. And again, Vini Jr. writing off all the doubters that said that he couldn't do it for Brazil. He's not like the other Brazilian superstars. He's now got a pair of goals and an assist at this World Cup. And on the other side of him, Rafinha, once again, pretty underwhelming for the time that he was on the pitch. Obviously, his night was ended early. He came off around, I think, the 40th minute. You hope that it's nothing super serious if you are Brazil. Even if Rafinha hasn't been quite himself in this tournament, he's still a very impactful player on that right side. Good on both sides of the ball, obviously without a goal contribution yet, but you could sort of feel with a player like that his time would eventually come. But again, hope that it's nothing serious with that injury, especially going forward. But again, just a lot of good things to take away from this Brazil team in this game. Again, this is the game where they really had to gain something, and they did. Even off the bench, we saw the introduction of Endrick finally at this World Cup. He had a chance on net put away. Obviously, when he called off for offside. Kind of funny that he still did his whole celebration and everything without seeing the flag. Gabriel Martinelli as well. I thought he was another decent wrinkle in the attack. He should have finished that chance, though. I mean, I'm sorry. That was just a nasty setup from Vinny. The back heel assist, that would have been just insane. But of course, like many times we've seen him in Arsenal, he sold the clip. And again, all of this spells good news for Brazil. Just got the news that Neymar is going to be making his return against Scotland in that third game. It'd be really interesting to see what kind of role he could play. We'll probably see him replace maybe Paqueta or maybe play alongside him in that midfield. Who knows what they'll be able to pull with him. But regardless, I'm so excited to see Neymar back at the World Cup. That'll be so great to see him. Looking forward to that for sure. Playing with all this talent around him as well. But again, Brazil getting it done, putting plenty of goals on the board. Again, putting that pressure on Morocco to now having them get a result against Haiti, and it puts them in a position to where, again, against Scotland, they put a couple more up, and they were going to secure that first place in the group. As of now, this group is going exactly like I predicted it to be. Brazil and Morocco were going to tie, and it would come down to whoever got the better results, and as of now, Brazil is going to be the team to benefit from that. But we'll see, man. Who knows what Scotland could pull off in that last game. You don't want to write them off completely. And as for Haiti, it was great to see you guys here, but unfortunately, they become the first team to be eliminated mathematically from the FIFA World Cup. And I just want to go into that a little bit because I know there's some people, especially when it comes to the next game, people confused of how this whole third place thing works of, is it decided by goal difference? Because theoretically, if Haiti wins and Scotland loses, then they get past them or what? No. The World Cup this year has introduced a new tiebreak system where head-to-head becomes the number one tiebreaker. Not goal difference, not goal scored, not fair play points. It is all about the head-to-head result. And so in the case of Haiti, they lost to Scotland, so that puts them automatically behind them. They lose to Brazil, and obviously Brazil and Morocco both on 4 points. Haiti have no chance of, even with a win somehow against Morocco next week, and if Scotland gets blown out by Brazil, they still can advance. Which is important to mention for this next game because we got to talk about Turkey against Paraguay because Turkey did it again. I know I predicted this team to go to the quarterfinals, but at the same time, I should have just listened to my own logic. Every single time that Turkey goes into a tournament with any kind of pressure, any kind of expectation, they just completely fold. I don't know what it is. I think this all goes back to the 2002 World Cup, right? 2002 World Cup, Turkey, they came third. They went on an insane run at that tournament. They were going head-to-head with teams like Brazil. But evidently what that result did was that it set the standard. The Turkish public saw that and said, hey, we can do third at a World Cup. That's the level we should be at. And ever since then, they've just been trying to chase that, and it's never come to fruition. I mean, there's a reason why this team hasn't even qualified for a World Cup since that third place in 2002. I mean, their best performances since then have been 2008 Euro, where they made a semifinal run, and just recently, the 2024 Euro, where they made it to the quarterfinals. And I mention that specifically because this was with pretty much the same group of players. Guys like Arda Güler, Kenan Yildiz, Hakan Çalhanoğlu, Demiral. Those same group of players were on that quarterfinal team from 2024. And that team, they weren't really expected to do much. They were a younger team. No one really knew what to expect of them. Yes, they kind of had this home backing because they were in Germany. Large Turkish population there, obviously. And whatever it was, they belted off of that, and they had a great tournament. Besides the Portugal game, every single game, they looked really, really good. And they really impressed. And again, that set the standard heading into this World Cup. Where again, in a group with the US, Australia, and Paraguay, you would expect a team like that with all that talent in them. They're a team that they have a higher value team on paper than the likes of Morocco and Croatia. And in a group like that, you would easily expect them to come first of it. But again, like I said in my preview, I had my doubts of whether this team could step up to that pressure. I mean, look no further than the convoy. You had basically the whole country behind them as they go into the airport for this World Cup. And now they're coming back home having not scored a single point, having lost both games, and not scored a single goal despite recording over 60 shots. I mean, that is just unbelievable. First things first, I gotta say, fair play to Paraguay, man. That goal from Matias Galarza just over a minute into the game was absolutely electric. Paraguay, after that hard loss in their last game against the US, they came out swinging in this one. Big opportunity early in the game that put them up 1-0. And again, Turkey, under that pressure for basically the entire game, just had to throw it at Paraguay. Unfortunately, though, despite that heavy shot count, they were never able to generate that many great opportunities. Most of the time, I was seeing this team take long shots and just nothing really was able to capitalize. Fair play to the Paraguay defense once again. They came off a hard game in the last one. They stepped up big time in this one. Their task obviously becoming a lot harder when late in the first half, Miguel Almiron was a victim of the Vinny rule. I'm going to call it the Vinny rule. I don't know if there's actually a name for it, but regardless, he was caught talking with a hand over his mouth, something that was emphasized at this World Cup, that if there was any kind of altercation like that, it would be looked at and the player would be sent off. Now, I understand that it's very, very harsh, all right? Obviously, again, this is all going back to the Vinny Prestiani stuff from a couple of months ago in the Champions League. So I understand it from that aspect why they want to stamp that stuff out because, again, knowing what Prestiani allegedly said or what he actually said, regardless, who knows what Miguel Almiron said. I definitely don't think he was at that level. But at the same time, Turkey pointed it out because they knew the rules. They knew that that's a red card offense, and that proved to be a lifeline for them as they would be up a man throughout the entire second half. An advantage that, again, not to spoil things too much, they were not able to take advantage of. And again, fair play to Paraguay. They did their thing. They got their stops. They did exactly what was needed to do to keep their World Cup alive. But man, for Turkey, this is just so disappointing. I know a lot of the blame will go on Vincenzo Montella for this, but what do you want him to do? You're given 60 opportunities to just get one goal in the back of your net, especially in this game. Get one goal in the back of the net to save your tournament, at least give you that opportunity to play on for another game, and yet they couldn't even do that with all that talent on the field. Arda Güler, we saw how great he was in Euro 2024. Kenan Yildiz, he's been amazing for Juventus over this last couple of years. The captain, Hakan Çalhanoğlu, he's been a mainstay in Serie A and Inter for years. He's anchored teams that have gone to multiple Champions League finals. I mean, it's just truly unbelievable how this team has just managed to fail. And again, it's just repeatable at this point when it comes to the pressure that they face and just their inability to perform to that standard. So I can't imagine how frustrated Turkish fans are right now. Again, don't think any of them could have expected their tournament to be done within 2 games. And again, it's not like in past tournaments where you can make the case if they played really good teams. This is Australia and Paraguay. They haven't even faced the toughest team in their group yet. They faced the 2 teams that they should be beating, and they failed. Their defense kept them with a chance in it. They gave up 2 goals against Australia. That's maybe not that great, but 1 goal in this one, 2 minutes in. They kept a clean sheet for basically 88 minutes of this one, and yet not a single goal to be scored. I'm sorry, what this World Cup is proving is that if you can't score goals, you don't belong here. Simple as that. So far, this has been a high-scoring World Cup. You gotta have your attack going for this. Again, Paraguay, it wasn't a lot for them, but it was just enough. They trusted themselves, they backed themselves to back themselves in and stop the Turks, and that's exactly what they did. So fair play to Paraguay. They have a chance, obviously, with the result against Australia to stamp themselves into the next round. If not, they'll probably just hope for a draw to at least be enough with that negative goal differential, but we'll see what they can do, man. That'll be a very interesting game. 2 teams that we've obviously seen them both backstop against Turkey, but we'll see how both of them want to approach this next game. A draw is probably the best case scenario for both these teams, considering that would probably put them both in a position to go through to the knockout. But we'll see which team wants to maybe take more of the aggressive side and really take things from here. That'll be very interesting, especially with Paraguay not having Miguel Almiron for the next game. That could be big for them. So we'll probably see, again, more of a defensive approach from them. But again, if they can get an early chance like that to put themselves up, we'll see what they can do. But that is going to be it for this day of the World Cup. Again, we're starting to see teams dropping like flies now, and it's only going to continue on as the days go on. Obviously, today, another big day of games. We have Group F, Netherlands and Sweden. That's going to be a big one. Germany and Cote d'Ivoire in Toronto. And, of course, Ecuador with a chance to bounce back against Curacao. All of that going down today. Another crazy day at the World Cup. It's going to be absolutely brilliant. Again, thanks so much for the support on this series. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe for daily World Cup content. And Turkey, you have 24 hours to write a 62-page apology letter to your fans marking every missed shot that was missed at this tournament. Let's play football.